For all time, always, and for the last time, we are
Oh,
talking Loki. Yes,
why
dude,
do you gotta say the last time?
it's the last time. Episode 6, the finale. What a show. What a series. I have so much to say tonight. Chiapet, of course, hosting with me tonight, and Anthony from a Reference Point podcast is going to be on a little later because he went to watch the Marvels. But, dude, wow, what an episode. So much just took place on a massive scale for the MCU, the timeline for Loki. What the hell?
I don't know. I don't know if you remember a couple of weeks ago we were discussing. Maybe it was with Newbie on,
Yep.
and we're discussing how the crazy thing is about the show is as crazy as everything happens, they still manage to focus it only on like not only on Loki, but it it progresses Loki's story the whole time.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's so grand and also so personal is to me it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Eric Martin and what's the two directors' name who've done the majority of hello, what's up, Lefteros, Gregory? How you guys
Lefteros,
doing?
Gregory, Hyper, man. What's up?
Oh, Hyper's in the house.
Yeah, there you go.
So I I just don't understand how they put together. Like I was watching the reverse thing that I sent earlier that they released
Yep.
earlier, the first,
Yep.
and I was watching with my brother earlier, and I'm like, just that
Yep.
shows how much care they take for the smallest things.
Absolutely.
It's the minute little stuff make it so much better and so much richer of an experience.
Yes, exactly. And we're going to get into all of that because that's one thing I definitely can agree with you on. This entire series, both seasons,
Both
the
systems.
fine details, man,
Yeah,
everything that they
yeah,
did from front to back
yeah.
really gave you that experience, man. Like you said, that rich experience, and everything just. I'm one that cares for those fine details, right? Like
Yes,
I pay attention to stuff like that. So
yeah.
when we got the opening credit, right, the Marvel scroll, dude, like that for me is clutch. So let's get into it, okay?
Okay, right
Big
off the top.
episode, big
Let's go.
episode.
There's
Yeah, big
so much.
episode. So lots to unpack. So we have a lot to soak in. We are fresh off of watching the episode, but right out the gate within the episode, what did we get? We got that reverse Marvel Studios opening,
Beautiful.
right? So it played in reverse, which was pretty cool because I don't think I've ever seen that
No,
ever.
I want a question. Was the music being played in reverse as well?
Yeah, it seemed like it was being played in reverse.
What's up, Robert?
Yeah.
I,
Yes, yes, yes.
so it was reverse, right?
What's up, RP? Yeah,
Well, there was something different about it. Natalie
yeah,
Holt did something different. It
100%.
wasn't it wasn't the usual how do you call it again score because I'm listening to it and I'm not. I mean, you're more musically inclined.
Yeah.
Can the music sound that good in reverse from what the other way is?
Well, there's
It
certain
sounded pretty
albums.
good.
There's certain albums we refuse to play in reverse because then it's gonna summon the devil. But
Yes, 100%.
but this one, yeah, it sounded like it was in reverse. I got to go back to check because I was just, you know, fascinated by what was happening, taking place,
Oh
seeing
yeah,
it in reverse. But so we get the reverse Marvel Studios logo intro, and then why is that? Because we're going back. That's right, we're going back, baby. And where are we going to? Well, that's exactly the moment where before Victor Timely made his way to the temporal loom, right? So Loki slips to that exact moment where you see him do his little thing and he's back in that moment. Now Loki, I found it odd because he lets Victor Timely go, like, yeah, go type thing, right? So he just lets Victor Timely go, knowing what's gonna happen to him, and I mean, lo and behold, what happens? Well, he spaghettifies, right? Spaghettifies was the term we've been
yeah.
using up until now.
We. I
Yeah,
mean, I think a lot of people, but definitely on this show, we've settled on spaghettify.
exactly. So he turns to spaghetti, and Loki doesn't seem phased. His intent was to ask Obi,
Yeah.
at that time, what they could have done different, right? So Obi says, "Well, we were too late," right? So Loki takes that and goes back over and over again, like speeding up the process, right? Trying to get Timely out there a little quicker, and clearly multiple failed attempts. There's even a fun moment because not only does he go back to the moments of Victor Timely going out, right, but he's going back to certain points of this season as well, like when they're in the war room with Renslayer, Miss Minutes. I found that to be so funny because Loki barges in the room, grabs Timely, kind of like
Yeah,
not grabs Timely, like he just barges into the room while they're having their discussion, and like Miss Minutes looked confused as hell, which I found
yeah,
was so
so
funny.
good.
Yeah, exactly. So where do we go from there? We go to the moment where Timely and Obi meet, right? So you remember when in that in Obi's shop, he introduces Timely and Obi for the first.
Mhm.
So we go back to that particular moment from the season, and Loki does this whole presentation on what they need to do for the loom. So you remember when Obi brought out that little sample
Yeah,
demo of the platform with the little action figure. So Loki's speeding up the process and starting to talk about that. And he's showing everybody, what needs to be done. So I thought that was pretty funny as well. Going back to that moment, like I said, multiple moments, right? So we're at that point, and he pretty much he does the presentation, and then after Obi and Timely kind of have an exchange, and I forget exactly what the wording was, but he asks Loki asks Obi how long it would take for him to learn everything that Obi knows, right? Because
I think
the
that was after they failed again. Maybe no,
yeah,
no, 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 no. It was because he wanted to learn how to do the machine before he did.
exactly.
Yeah,
So he, in order to speed up time, he wants to learn it before Obi
yeah,
actually put that together, right? So that was the intent. So um, when Loki asks Obi, Obi's like, it could take decades, and then Timely says centuries, and then we just see
centuries
centuries
later.
later type
Yeah,
thing, right? So like
yeah,
Loki is that dedicated, right? He's willing to go through centuries if he has to in order to get things done. So centuries later, now here we are, back to the room. Now, Loki even built that face scanner thing there that looked like a pizza oven.
oh, so good.
Yeah. So he built that thing for Timely. And in all this, Loki has become a mad genius, right? We've seen
Yeah,
him go through so many events of trying to
scenarios.
master points in time that he's now even ahead of Obi, right? And it's funny because they make a reference saying that, yeah, okay, Obi, I'm coming for your job type thing.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and Mobius literally turns to Loki and asks him, like, "What the shit are you doing?" Like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
just, I laughed because I kind of felt like maybe Mobius can feel or sense that, like,
Oh, he
okay,
definitely sensed something was up.
exactly. So, even Timely's like, this all seems so rushed. Like, he's it was just well executed, and regardless, he makes his way out, and by he I mean Victor Timely, makes his way out. Right now, Loki's done all this process to speed up time on getting all these pieces set up so that they can execute. And when Victor Timely makes his way out, this time he's alive, right? So he makes it to hit that green button that gets stuck, right? So we've seen that even
Yeah,
in trailers and commercials and stuff like that for Loki season 2. So he's telling him hit it, it tends to get stuck. So he does hit the button. Now Timely makes his way back finally into the room where everybody is, and they're all celebrating, right? It's kind of an emotional moment because they find Loki feels like he finally did it. So they're all celebrating, the gang celebrating. Um, Now the loom is stabilizing at this point, and then the readings are off again, right?
amazing.
Yeah, the loom is overloading again. Loki just looks so defeated because he's gone through centuries of learning stuff just for
Yeah,
this, and still it didn't work. There's too many branches, is what we find out at this point, and everything is replicating at an infinite rate. So you just hearing all of this information, you feel the defeat of Loki, right? And we learned that it can never be stabilized. So that was some pretty heavy news. And as soon as the timelines started branching, this was pretty much doomed to happen, right? So
well, yeah. I mean, we didn't know. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, exactly. So Timely says sorry, like pretty much crying. Um, and yeah, so that's where we're at so far within this episode. So it's a very intense opening out the gate.
Yeah. Uh, so I mean, the thing about this part, it was funny in a weird, playful way, but also it kept the stakes kept rising. It's weird, but just the editing, the acting. I turned to my brother when we were watching it, and I'm like, the guy's got to win one just for this.
Yep.
The way he was interacting with people around him, and the way he was jumping into his scenes, I think that was the way he would finish each other the sentences. The one that you said about the joke thing, that was
Yep.
hilarious for me.
Yep.
But just the build up to it and the slowly going backwards and backwards and backwards, I almost felt like, oh, that's half the episode, or 2/3 we're done. Oh,
Yeah.
they failed. And then you're like, and I looked at the time and I'm like, oh my god, we have a whole other 40 minutes left. Like that's
Yeah.
the whole thing almost felt like a 3-part end game type movie, where you had the time caper, and then you had the other scene, and then like you had it was definitely like a 3 act story in just the finale.
Yeah.
And it also kind of addressed like some things like well, we got a few things wrong. We should do a little segment at the end, things that we thought were going to happen that didn't. So I think we definitely need to do that when Anthony hops on.
Fair.
But and things that we got right, because we did kind of like allude to certain things that end up happening. But I think that one point where you thought to yourself, oh, how is the loom going to do this? Like, what is the loom? Why would Kang have set up a loom, or He Who Remains?
Exactly.
And then that's eventually explained, and you're like, oh, so the writers just seem to be ahead of us at all times.
Pretty much.
Like the part where you said at the moment when he first jumped in there, and you're like, oh, okay, he let him die. Why? But they let him die because Loki is thinking so much faster than we are. Yeah. I don't have time to explain to them what is happening. I just need them to see the disaster.
Exactly.
So they could just tell me fast. I can get the hell out of there.
And confide.
Yeah,
and it's funny you say that, because one thing that I felt as a viewer just watching the show, I felt like I was Victor Timely, like I was Sylvie, like I was Mobius, being rushed into what the hell is going on, right?
Yeah. Like you're feeling the upbeat tempo, bang, 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 and you're also like picking up the information. So you're like, it's working on like multiple ways, like exactly. And I'm a big fan of that kind of thing, like trying to redo things. Like I've always been a big fan of that whenever that they do that kind of stuff in movies. So for me, like I'm all in for a time heist. I just love it. So happening there with expert scripting, expert planning, and expert dialogue and acting. It was honestly, it was some of the best work I've seen in any MCU property, especially the top to bottom. The amount of detail they took from the reverse opening, from the sets, everything about it, the show. I mean, I can't praise it enough, honestly.
Yeah. Now, to some, we might sound like fanboys. To some, we might.
Oh, I'm definitely a fanboy. I'm not going to argue that point. But
we might sound biased or whatever it may be. But you got to.
But I don't gush over shows like this, this much. No.
Exactly. So we got to give credit where credit's due. I think Marvel hit a home run with this, and we'll talk more about how we felt about the entire series and, of course, both seasons at the end of this show. But let's get back into the actual Loki episode. So back to the moment of where. We go back to the moment after this of where He Who Remains was, right? So getting back to a different. Remember, we've been told several times the final episode we're going to see another variant, right? And we did. So here, He Who Remains makes his way back in this episode, and it's the exact moment where Loki stopped Sylvie from killing him, right? So you see him time slip,
try to stop. Yeah, the first
line. Yes, but it's the first attempt where he stops her, right?
Yeah.
And he tells her that she cannot kill him. She says he'll have to kill her, type thing, right? And this is not the first time this has come up, right? We've heard this many times that he needs to kill her, and this is heavily emphasized throughout this episode. We'll touch more on that, but we see him fighting her multiple times, right? And fails because each time You just hear in the background the stabbing, and I'll see you soon. Next attempt, bang, I'll see you soon, right? So it's
Yeah.
over and over and over, and it doesn't stop, right? So we go through many attempts. And we even go as far back to the elevator moment, right, where he was holding his apple the first time they make their way
Yes.
to the end of time. And I thought that was,
I gotta say, did they recreate these things? Because they
they
were
had
perfectly recreations.
they
Perfect.
had to, there's no way they filmed this while
No,
filming season one,
impossible. Yeah, it's not
right?
impossible. They can't have that impossible, right?
Yeah.
It's just
And
meticulous, meticulous.
exactly. And again, it comes out, if you want to stop me, you'll have to kill me. And it plays over and over. Now, Loki then tells He Who Remains to fight back. While these scenes are going, right? The multiple attempts, he looks at, like, you hear him say it to He Who Remains, like, aren't you going to do anything? Like, fight back type thing. And when he tells him to do something, He
Yeah.
Who Remains reaches over for the tempad, and he like kind of just freezes Sylvie, right? And at
Hmm.
one point even makes her fully disappear from
Yeah.
the scenery, so
From the
that
eye line.
it's just them two, which is pretty cool. Now when he freezes her, he asks Loki, "So how many times have you been at this?" Right? Like asking.
Yeah. You realize it. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
Exactly. So Loki asks, "How does he know?" And He Who Remains confirms, like, he knows about the time slipping, right? And what was even funny, which I'll get into in a bit, he talks about the time slipping and asks, "Who do you think paved the road for this?" Right? So you're learning that He Who Remains His hand has always been behind this. And then he asks, he's like, you think I'd just let her kill me? Rest in peace, right? He even says
Yeah.
R.I.P. And then he
Yeah.
says another one, which
No.
forgive me, guys.
R.I.P. He who remains. HWR.
Yeah, exactly. So
R.I.P. HWR. He goes.
yeah, which was pretty funny, but
Yeah.
no. What
Wonderful.
does he say? Reincarnation, baby. So he tells Loki as they're having their exchange, go through this 1,000 more times, get his bearings, right? He told him, and let him know when he's ready to have a conversation. So he brings Sylvie back at that point, right? But then Loki
Oh.
manages to freeze his time. Like he freezes time and asks He Who Remains, "What makes you think this is the first time we've had this conversation?"
Oh. The
And
perfect rebuttal to him.
yeah, it was the ultimate badass moment, because then not Victor Timely, sorry, He Who Remains looks at him and he's like, "You were always my favorite, even though there
Yeah.
was two of you in the room, you have always been my favorite."
Yeah.
um so but it was crazy because then Victor Timely asks him about certain things and moments and people, when he's even like, "How was Victor Timely?" And I was like, oh man, like so good. But the temporal loom, we learn at this point through He Who Remains, is a failsafe, right? And again, you see the devastation in Loki's face. It basically deletes timelines that are not supposed to be there, everything except the sacred timeline, right?
Yes.
And he even does that. Now he says the TVA is just collateral damage, and he tells him that his variants are already out there, right? So Loki says, "We'll find them," and he basically tells him, like, he's not worried, right? Type thing. Like Loki's
Yeah.
just showing, I don't care, like whatever it takes, type thing. And He Who Remains says that the outcome remains the same no matter what. You lose, right? And that's typical Loki. Loki always
Yes.
loses, and it stings. It always stings, right?
Yeah.
But Loki says, I know, right? Like he looks at him saying that. Now, Loki says, I'll change the equation, right? So he gets up and says, I'll change the equation. I'll break your loom. Now, the loom prevents a brutal war where nothing survives. This is according to He Who Remains, and says not even the sacred timeline. If you want to break the loom, what do you think is going to happen with your friends, type thing, right? So
Yeah.
when he says that, you could see a change in Loki's face, but at the same time, he's dead set, man, on what he needs to do. So He Who Remains says he's offering mercy, type thing, and then Loki says he'll find another way, regardless. So okay, and around we go. Break the loom or kill Sylvie is pretty much what He Who Remains puts on the table for Loki. So I thought all of that exchange, the He Who Remains stuff, was so good, especially for me, that one scene where Loki literally stands up and asks him, like when he freezes it type thing, he freezes time and looks at him and says, "What makes you think this is like the first time we've had this conversation?" So badass.
I think this part was in itself deserves a segment because I think we basically saw two top tier actors, two of the best that are in probably in the MCU or in this genre,
Yeah,
going at it. And as wonderful as the whole backgrounds are and the beautiful scenery and everything is, their conflict as equals at that moment because Loki's kind of mastered the thing and he's more confident. Whereas the first time they met each other, he had all the knowledge, and now here Loki's had a chance to do the reversing thing, so he kind of got more. It was so intricate and interesting that it was riveting. I found the what was very interesting, and I think I mentioned to you off air, was we kind of got He Who Remains as the wacky, crazy guy at the end of time, right?
Yeah.
But here, you kind of got him as the wacky, crazy guy was just a ruse.
Yeah.
And he was in a lot more effing control than he let it on.
Yeah.
And he was a lot more menacing as soon as he flipped off Sylvie and she wasn't in the room. Like they got down to brass tacks, as they say, right?
Exactly.
And there were two people talking and hashing it out. And like they even said it, like, okay, now that you're ready, now we're gonna have this discussion.
Yep.
Because this is about to happen now. Like this is gonna get get real deal now. And I thought that was super interesting. And that whole conversation and that whole Loki trying, and I guess they really needed to show Loki constantly throughout the thing trying for what happens next. Like he's literally trying to exhaust every possibility. Like you said, hundreds of years studying physics to get faster.
Yeah.
You know, here he is. He's fought them thousands of times, probably. He's went to fight in front of He Who Remains, trying to see he never gets involved. Why? Until he finally is exhausted and says, "Hey, man, what the hell? How come you're not getting involved in this? Like, what's going on? Why aren't you trying to protect yourself?" Like, calls him out on it. And that's when He Who Remains says, "Hey, man, this is all happening the way I told you. You think I'm going to be punked out by this chick?"
Yep.
He's basically telling me, "You think this guy?" He started getting a little bit of street in him there at that moment. He's like, "Hey, man, you think I don't know what's happening here?"
Yeah, and even when he says it in a fashion of like, "Who do you think paved the way?"
Yeah. Like whose game do you think you're playing here?
Yeah.
Like, bro, I'm the house. I win. He basically told him, "I win," basically. And then Loki's like sitting there. He's like, "Oh yeah." And you know what I really liked? They had that equation on the chalkboard since season 1. Okay, I don't know if you're wondering what the equation is, what it means, but I love the fact that they took some nice random prop and they used it to inspire Loki to what he's gonna do next.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, you know what? Nah, man, I'm gonna change the whole friggin' game. The plan that you have, we're gonna. You know what? You want to get nuts? Like George Costanza said.
Yeah.
You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. You know, that's like he's basically saying. He's like, we're gonna go all the way to the Hamptons. Let's go. We're gonna hit the Hamptons right now. Whoever hasn't seen that episode,
it's really the best. Good. It's so good.
But Loki wanted to get nuts because you know what? He was put in a rock and a hard place, and the guy was a little bit insulting.
Yeah.
So I love the fact that when confronted by this, Loki decided to double down and say, "No, man, I ain't gonna buckle to you." As a true hero, and throughout this whole time, what's wonderful is Loki's fighting to be the hero. You know, he wants to save everything, not everyone. He literally is coming into his own, and I thought it was incredible. I think our boy Anthony is
absolutely. I'm gonna segue right into bringing him in because, of course, one of our variants is here, so we're definitely bringing him in.
Fresh. What's up? What's up? How are we feeling about this episode? What did I miss?
10 on 10. I'm telling you right now. I'm not gonna even hide.
Fuck me, man. Holy shit, that was.
We'll get into our feels by the the feelings of the episode by not our actual feels, but feelings of the episode by the
Yeah,
end of
but it
this
had
show.
feels too, very much.
Yeah,
Very
into our
feeling.
feels
100%.
will go as well. But yes, man, of course, redemption arc, man, lots of that going on in this, and we'll get
Yeah.
into what took place. Cali Comics in the house. Cali, appreciate you swinging by. But Anthony, dude, you just finished watching the episode, and that's why you were late. Because,
Literally 2 minutes ago, and
yeah,
I was rushing to my computer, turning on my. I didn't even set up my Spider-Man flag today. I'm
don't
like,
even
nope,
worry.
gotta get it ready.
Don't
Gotta watch
worry.
it.
That episode is a lot to digest. Now we just recapped
Yeah.
pretty much everything from the beginning up until the moment
Mhm.
where Loki and He Who Remains had their discussion. So
Incredible.
yeah, that moment was just awesome. What did you think of that? Like for me again, I'm gonna put emphasis on that one moment where Loki stood up
Mhm.
and literally told him, like, what makes you think this is the first time we're having this conversation? Like, that was just so awesome. But
Yeah.
tell us what you thought.
I just want to give a shout out to the disco montage of just
Oh,
them
I forgot
failing
about that.
and
Yeah.
failing. And
Yep.
it's just
The
Groundhog Day for
disco montage in
them.
the
It's
beginning was
incredible.
incredible.
Yeah.
As a man who loves a good disco beat, yes, I'm
Yeah.
that old to remember them in the early 80s, okay? That once it hit, I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
this is it.
Yeah.
It's
For
just
those
the
of
song
you
choice. It's so good.
For those of you who don't know, if we were to travel the multiverse or maybe even go back in time, we would probably see Chiapet with the Bee Gees haircut and all of the above. But
Guys,
it
if I let the
I'd
Chiapet
pay good
hair
money
go,
to
I
see
would
that.
have dominated the 70s.
was
The only problem is I don't have great chest hair, but other than that, the fro would have been incredible. The fro,
love it.
I live the dream.
But Anthony, yes, let us know what you thought of that exchange, man, with He Who Remains.
I'm telling you, I thought it was super smart. It's once again playing on I said this last week, I'll say it again, playing on the theme of full circle of the snake eating its own tail. We're back to where the last season ended, and this season's ending in the same location, same conversation, but different now.
Yeah.
I was edging my seat this whole time because he keeps going back and back. I'm like, and then it works, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Wonderful.
When he goes back to that moment, I was like, I'm sitting here like, there's no fucking way they just did this.
Yep, they did.
And I was speechless more than anything. And then when what's his name? He remains, pauses time, says, you realize that this guy knew what was coming. He knew this whole time.
But I also like the fact that when Loki pauses time, He Who Remains kind of respected him.
Yep, exactly.
He literally says, "You're my favorite. That you're both my favorite."
Like, you know what, man? All right, you got me on that one. I respect.
Mm-hmm.
Like game recognized game at that moment, you know?
Exactly.
And I'm like, yeah, that's so good. That just
and
very good.
Majors is just killing it in that scene. He's just the energy he brought to it. Even when he's imitating Victor Timely, I'm like, oh my god.
He literally did an imitation of the character he brought to life.
Yeah.
And he made it as a pale imitation of himself.
Exactly.
So well done.
I just love the fact that they went back to that whole sequence of events, like, and then when they go even further back, it's like, wow.
Yep.
Wow.
But all right, let's move on from the scene with He Who Remains, because what happens from there? Well, Loki time slips again, and this time he's going back to the moment where Victor Timely is sticking his head inside what I call the pizza oven. I don't know if you've ever seen those Uni pizza ovens. Looks very much.
I actually have one.
Yeah, exactly. But
exactly.
Loki's staring at everybody at that moment, and you can see he's teary-eyed, right? Actually, no, wait, sorry. It doesn't go there.
No.
Correction, time out. Let's go back in time, kind of like Loki does. He actually goes to the moment where he was being interrogated by Mobius, and that was a very important scene as well, right? Do you remember when they captured him within the TVA in season 1? Loki and the Mobius are sitting at that table, which we saw Loki in the last episode make his way to that room, right? Now, he's at that room with the interrogation taking place with Mobius. And he asks Mobius, like, how do you choose who lives or dies, right? Because he was pretty much already telling Mobius, like, yeah, I know what you're going to ask me. And he starts saying everything before Mobius could even do it. And he's like, well, I guess someone gave you the script type thing, right? So when he asks Mobius, how do you choose who lives and who dies? Mobius responds by saying pruning, right? We prune people around here. And I thought what was cool is that, Mobius has a very deep talk with Loki about a deep story, um, of an 8-year-old boy, who killed like 5,000 people. Now,
That-
there was a hunter that was sent to prune that 8-year-old boy, and that hunter hesitated, right? Now, because of that slight hesitation, timelines started to branch. Some hunters even died, all because that one hunter lost sight of the big picture. Now, we learn that it was him that hesitated. That's He was referring to himself, and it was Renslayer who had to step in to finish the job, right? So I thought that was okay, that's a big moment that we've never been informed of since watching any of these Loki shows, right? So getting that information, what I would say was pretty heavy, right? It was a very deep talk, in my opinion.
Mhm.
And now, after we learn that it was pretty much Mobius and Renslayer, Loki thanks Mobius. So they stand up, they're shaking hands, and everything starts to fade away, right? I want to say spaghettify, but this one felt a lot like the Thanos snap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like things were just fading away. So Loki time slips to back to Obi's room, right? Now I'm talking about the room where, in the episode, I think it was episode five,
Episode
where
5.
everybody starts to spaghettify towards the end of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're still rolling with spaghettifying.
Yeah.
Um,
I fuck with it.
Loki pretty much stops time at that moment, and that moment being exactly, um, right after Sylvie says there's nowhere left to go, right? And you see everything fading, and then she asks what's happening because she didn't fade away, right? So you saw everything still going, but Loki managed to stop time or whatever it was at that moment, and he says to her that we're outside time right now. And he explains everything to her about the loom being a failsafe and that everything survives if killing he who remains never happened. So she acknowledges that Loki needs to kill her, and she pretty much says it to him. He asks, "What do we do?" Right? Because you can see there's a lot of emphasis in this episode again throughout the both seasons that her being the one that needs to die type thing is like pretty much an answer, but it's an answer we don't want to face, right?
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
refuse to go down that road. So it's basically the sacred timeline or nothing, right? That's pretty much what we learn. Now, from there, we go back to the moment of Timely sticking his head again in the pizza oven, like I was telling you guys.
Yeah.
and Loki stares at everyone teary eyed, which I was saying earlier, and he makes his way down the stairs and out to the loom. Like it's a very, I don't want to say intense scene, but you can see the sadness, and like even Mobius is like, Loki, what are you doing? Type thing, right? He starts to make his way down the stairs to the loom, and before going out says, I know what I want. I know what kind of god I need to be for you, for all of us. And that's exactly, we saw some pictures that came out maybe 2 weeks ago of this exact moment where Sylvie and Mobius are behind the door with the glass, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And you could tell they're screaming for a reason, for Loki, in fact. So this is why we got to see those images, and we learn at this point what ends up happening. And outside, Loki goes, right? So we've seen Victor Timely fail time and time again, making his way out there. But Loki goes outside, with no suit except his fucking Loki suit, man. He starts to make his way gradually, and you see him start to, you know, bring on his Loki suit type thing. The horns start to come out.
Yeah.
Dude, when he's in his full gear, it is so badass. So everybody who was saying Loki is not Loki at this point in time, we got our Loki. That's right, Gregory. I agree with you 1000%. The transition was
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. I
Spot on.
think, yeah, that scene, you could feel the moment of like, okay, this guy's about to like transcend to God level at this point. Like something's
Yeah.
gonna
Not messing
happen.
around here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Oh,
He's totally not messing around. But with his magic, you see he destroys the loom completely. He completely destroys it, and the branches are all dying, right? You see them like they're all like ashy or whatever it may be, and Sylvie even says it, right? So with it, you see him grabbing them like one at a time, and you see like that green magic thing there that he always does, touching into the timelines, and it's pretty much you see it transcend throughout all that timeline that everyone he grabs, right? So I thought that was very, very cool to see. And there was that wall within, I guess we could call space at this point, like where they're at, the
Yeah.
wall opens up and
Mhm.
he's grabbing them along with him, right? So as he's making his way, the guy is literally carrying all timelines with him. He literally has all timelines, dude,
Yeah.
and just
The
pulling them with him.
glorious purpose, baby.
It is
Mhm.
the glorious purpose, and I don't think they'll be able to top anything for Loki with this moment. Like this moment was so insane where he's carrying the timelines with him, in one of the most badass scenes I've ever seen, and he literally sits on what seems to be a throne, pretty much like a chair, like He Who Remains was in, right? He
Mhm.
sits right there with all of them together, and it forms a tree. And Chiapet, what was I telling you? The
Yeah.
fucking world tree, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the world tree. Now, don't ask me to pronounce the actual name of it. If anybody knows how to pronounce it, props to you. Um,
Not
but
me.
but let's talk about that scene, man. Like it's probably one of the most badass scenes I've seen in quite some
Ev-
time in the MCU.
Everything from the music to the editing was just on point. The horns being made of the same material as the tempad, he remains tempad. I was like, that's fucking cool. Like, there's no other way. I wasn't expecting him to wear the costume more than anything. Like, and so when it started assembling, I'm like, what is going on with him? And you realize like that classic costume finally making its comeback. I'm like, okay, I'm like on the edge, like I'm like leaning into my chair. I'm like, okay, wait, what's going on over here? Like, oh my god, I was just, I couldn't. It's not exactly
Yeah.
where I thought the story was gonna go. This
This
whole episode,
Yeah,
oh
this
yeah,
comment, this
hundred
comment,
percent,
this comment right here by Rob is spot on because he who makes the hard choices
yeah.
gets to sit in the big chair, right?
yeah.
Mhm.
It's funny because we kind of said that he always wanted it, but he wasn't ready for it. And
Yeah.
then the opposite happened where he grew ready for it and he took it because it needed to be taken.
Not
Yeah.
that he wanted to,
Yeah.
but
Not that he
it,
actually he didn't.
yeah, that's what I'm
It's
saying.
the
He didn't
opposite
want
of
to.
what he wanted, but it
He-
needed
he-
to happen.
He went over his arc that like he didn't. It's not what he
So-
wanted anymore. It's no, but it's what he has to do. And like even the look, like not to like jump all the way to the end, but like the last shot of his face, you
Yeah.
can tell it's like he doesn't look happy to be doing what he's doing. Like it's
Sort
something
of.
he needs to do
Yeah.
more than anything. But what was I saying before? It's just this whole sequence of events. This is not how I thought this episode was playing out at all. Remember when we said Deadpool 3 last week? Like, come on, this is not what I thought this
No.
episode was.
I
No.
mean, there
And-
are some things.
Just
Look,
the way
We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
I
yeah,
think
the,
even
the
before
way
this,
it
though,
unfolded, I couldn't believe
the
it.
conversations he was having with Mobius and Sylvie, the 2
Mhm.
most important people in his life, other than his brother and his dad and his mom,
Yeah.
probably. Like those are the 2 people who basically saved him from where he was. Those conversations were adding so much information to him.
Yeah.
When with the Mobius one, it crystallized burden. It's not
Yeah.
glorious. It's
Exactly.
something you have to do, and it hurts and it's hard. And the person he trusted the most was giving him that advice, unbeknownst to what the changes that Loki had.
yeah.
Yeah.
He was giving him the truth before they became friends, and he was
Yep.
giving him an honest nugget. And Loki's like, "Oh man, damn," you know. And then
Yeah.
he thought to himself, "Okay, the hard choice is I'm gonna eliminate Sylvie because I love her, and but I gotta eliminate her."
And that's what they
Yeah.
made you think that he
Yeah.
was gonna
I-
do that to her.
He
I was
gonna go-
convinced.
yeah,
I was
he went to
100%
her,
convinced.
and
Yeah.
then the other person said, "No, man, fuck what they tell you. We did rage against the dying sun, right? What is that quote that they say?
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
we got a chance to sit here and fight for what we have, and she, he gave him the information on an intellectual level, And
What's up,
then
Trev?
what's up, Trev? And then
What's up?
she inspired him on an emotional level
Yep.
to do what he had to do. And then when he walked in there and he looked at his friends, the people he loved, and he said, "This is the God I need to be."
Mhm.
So he learned to be a man and a person and a good person, and then he accepted his role as a god, something he always whined about like a petulant child. And he said,
Yep.
"No, my march." He marched to the top of the hill.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you,
Yeah.
Rob. Listen, Rob knows his shit. That's why he's in here, bro. So he marched like a boss, like he was a Spartan, ready to go there. And he walked up those makeshift stairs through the void to go to where the He Who Remains was, dragging the timelines with him till he can reignite them.
Yep.
And to make them, it was, and then he sat on the throne, the big chair, made of the same metal and that thing, because, and holding and powering basically the whole timeline.
Yep.
Becoming, as Rob pointed out, the god of stories. He literally is, all the stories are being powered by him.
Exactly.
And the one thing I'll say before we get to the end, the last thing I'll say, I really need Thor to realize what his brother did.
Yep.
It has to happen. He has to see the sacrifice he made.
Yeah.
We need a follow-up.
Unless Thor sees that.
Yeah.
Thor has to know what he did. You understand? Like, it has to happen. I mean, Odin will never get it, I don't think, but Thor at least needs to see it.
I don't think we would get Odin in a different timeline. Like, that would be pretty shitty.
No. Thor has to get it, I think, has to see it. It can't be a different timeline.
616 Thor.
Yeah, he has to see it. He has to see his brother. Because he needs a closure, because he's devastated that he lost his brother too.
Yeah.
So it's not like I get choked out. Like, it's a pretty bad way to end,
Yeah. I don't think he ever recovered after.
Yeah, Rob's saying my only criticism is that I feel like a lot of people have no idea what he did.
That's what I said. That's kind of what I said. What I need, at least a brother. I don't care about anybody else, but for Loki's sake, I think he needs his brother to do that.
We'll touch on something related to this once we get to the end of this, related to theories, because clearly I personally have a belief in regards to those two eventually coming across each other. But one thing I do want to point out is you were talking about how Loki had these very deep exchanges with his, the people who mattered most to him, being Sylvie and Mobius. Now, it kind of reminded me of that time when Thor went back to talk to Odin, right? Yeah. It felt exactly the same way, because at that point in time, Thor changes, right? When he sees Odin and he has that talk with him, even after he's knocked out and he ends up getting he becomes the god of thunder pretty much at 1,000%. That's what it reminded me of. Now, if I had to compare the two, this was way more of a badass scene. Like, it's just so well done that it hit every heartstring. But now we see Loki is pretty much the god of stories. He's holding together every single timeline. And what we get from there, well, we just get a after black screen that says after. Yeah, and back at the TVA we are, and everything is pretty much fine. Miss Minutes is back, even being reprogrammed by Obi, and what was
but not fully okay.
Yeah, exactly. Anybody wanting to bring her back has got to be psychotic. In fact, they even ask, I think it was B-15 who asks, like, sure she won't try to kill us at all, type thing.
Like, maybe.
Exactly, but she walks over to Mobius, who's at his desk, and he has reports of variants of He Who Remains, right? And one of them causing a little ruckus on the 616 adjacent room.
Realm,
Realm, sorry.
Adjacent.
And Mobius says, they handled it. And when you look at the photos, in fact, Chiapet, I think you even just sent me some right now. You can see here. I'm sorry for putting it up like this, but in the files, you can see what seems a lot like this particular scene from.
Yeah, it's literally exactly that. It's a screenshot from the movie, like cropped.
Exactly. So it's very, very good. Dude, I thought that was cool that they put reference on that. So the 616, now we're getting a lot of 616 talk. We got it. Also,
It's cemented.
from Quentin Beck, right? From then till
Yeah.
now, it's pretty much been confirmed.
What a good guess on his part, I guess. Like,
Yeah,
either that
exactly.
or he read a couple books and people. I remember in the timeline book they said that Quentin Beck took what's his name, Eric Selvig's research,
Yeah.
and from there said it was 616 because in Thor: The Dark World, this is like super nerdy. In Thor: The Dark World, you see that he writes 616
Yeah.
on the board, like in a bunch of his ramblings. So Quentin Beck read a book from him, got it
That's
there,
fair.
and that's just I'm like, oh, that's a cool little retcon.
Yeah,
to, like, tie it
that's
all
fine. That's a
together.
fun way to do it.
And they mentioned this in the latest Marvel book, right?
Yeah, it was the timeline book.
Yeah.
The one that we all need to get, I think.
Yeah.
I have
until they revise it when they do another mess up.
Yeah.
Mess up and they give it a volume 2.
My favorite is the fact that Homecoming opens. It says 8 years later, and ever since then they're like, that was just wrong. Like we got it completely wrong. We don't know what happened. So pretty funny thing.
Chiapet, you wanted to say something?
I think you were discussing, what was it that you were discussing right before?
So we were talking about back at the TVA with the Mobius stuff, with the
616 adjacent.
Which was very interesting part that they mentioned is about the Kang variants.
Yeah.
He Who Remain variants. And B-15 goes, do any of them know that we exist yet?
Yeah.
And
said,
Mobius says no. So what's interesting is because we know Kang overtakes the TVA.
Mm-hmm.
So one of these dudes is coming for the TVA. You get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Because that's how they become the He Who Remains.
Yeah.
When we saw the flashback of them talking with Ravonna, that wasn't He Who Remains. That was the guy who would become He Who Remains. But that was still in the full Kang gear.
Yep.
So that's the one that's coming. They don't know the TVA exists, and once one of them finds out that it exists, it's most likely going to take it over to use it to weaponize it against the other ones.
You're not saying Quantumania Kang, or is it that one?
It could be Quantum. Why can't it be Quantumania Kang? Of course it can be.
I'm
He's not dead. Quantumania. I maintain that because that's the Kang.
They said they took care of him, but they didn't say like, oh, like I think it's them saying they took care of him, but it's more like, yeah, he's gonna come back and it's really gonna shock everyone. You know,
so everybody's obsessed. Everybody's upset. Robert. Everybody.
I am too because it's supposed to be the comics. Now, one thing I did notice is that the current comics, a lot of the things happening within the MCU is starting to shift towards what's been taking place in comics. Example, now Kamala Khan has been retconned, I guess you can say, to being a mutant, right? Which we saw within the Miss Marvel TV series. So we're getting a lot of more of the recent runs. We're hearing that Secret Wars is going to be based on the Jonathan Hickman run. So I think the MCU is playing catch up to what's happening within comics right now. In fact, we saw these images pretty often within the Loki season 2, right? And lo and behold, it did end up taking place. And what do we get here? Well, Chiapet, thank you for sharing. There's this right here, man. So it's pretty interesting, and you see the dates right there, 2023, right? So
that's a promo art for the
I think it's promo art. I think I saw.
I think that was like a spoiler promo art that they probably just revealed tonight.
Yes. The throne in the back there, the gold throne.
Yeah, so I mean, hey, you print that on a comic, I could assure you, I'm buying that up like crazy because of how.
We'll see it tonight.
Exactly. But
what the 616 thing that Rob brought up, I think they decided that they're never gonna have the comic universe and the movie universe ever cross over.
Yeah, because it doesn't make sense.
So they just said the Prime Universe in the comics is 616. The Prime Universe Sacred Timeline in the other one is going to be the 616. End of story. It's easier for people to understand.
It's all a part of the Omniverse or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think it was.
Yeah.
Now that part where though that they don't exist, that no, the TVA exists yet, to me, I think it was not a throwaway line.
Yeah,
I think there's a lot of little bits there that were there to send us in a certain direction or to make it seem as if when they pick it up later that they're super geniuses.
Yep.
That we didn't pick up there. So I think that was there.
Now
the photo.
Yeah. 100%. Now after the exchange with Mobius where he says, there's the He Who Remains variant from 616 who made a little bit of a ruckus. We go to in front of the war room with B-15 there, and Mobius is speaking with B-15, and Mobius is saying pretty much that he's leaving, right? Like she guesses it, and he's like pretty much like, yeah. He says that like he has to go see what it is they've been protecting for all this time, right? Um, when he says that, though, she says if he ever wants a seat in there, meaning in the war room, it's his, at 100%. She asks if he's scared before walking away, and he says, yeah. And then she walks to the war room. She goes, and in there we see everybody, even the judge, right? We see everybody in the war room. The TVA is saved and restored from what we're seeing now. Obi is also in his shop with the new TVA books, right? He's unboxing
The
what
second
seems to be,
edition.
yeah, it looks
Yeah.
it looks to be a V2
Yeah.
of the TVA book. Does he have
More
himself a
orange.
bestseller?
Mhm.
Sorry,
It looked more orangey.
it was
Yeah, it
less
was like a
orangey.
lighter. Wasn't it
Yeah,
more yellow?
it felt yellow. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it
Yeah.
seemed a
Yeah.
little more yellow than anything.
Well, brighter is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and we even see
Hmm.
young Timely back in his room back in the day, right?
And nobody gave him a book this time.
Exactly. So he's just there. Now, Renslayer wakes up in a field where there's a pyramid. I don't know if that pyramid was intentional, but
Well, the
there-
Sphinx was there too.
yeah,
Well,
exactly.
she's in the void basically.
Yeah, because
Exactly.
wasn't that the same thing in season 1? You saw the pyramids and the
Yeah.
Sphinx and whatever.
You
And
did.
that's
And
Eliath is back.
now the
Yeah.
wind is blowing. Yes, she's in the void, but the wind is blowing, and you see it kind of like takes away some of the grass that's there. And what do we see? We see pretty much the symbol of the TVA, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
It
I
was
thought that
true.
was pretty cool. And the purple lights, the storm, and everything. It seems like she's finally at the end of time.
Well,
Now,
I think that was the purple lights were alive.
yes.
Yeah, I think it's basically saying she's cooked, she's dead, like she's
No,
getting swallowed by.
I
him.
disagree
No,
with
she
you.
ends up taming him.
She tames
That's what you're
Eliath.
thinking.
Yeah,
No, that's guaranteed in the comic book. She tames Eliath. That becomes her weapon.
Wait, which
exactly.
comic? Oh, wow, I
All
didn't
the
know.
comics. She's the one
Yeah.
that controls Eliath, not Kang.
Yep.
Holy
Exactly.
shit.
That's what they set her
Oh,
up
da-
for.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, damn,
yeah.
you guys just schooled me live on camera, man.
Oh, no, it wasn't intentional. You're obviously not good at this, so
Yeah.
we have
Guys,
to put you in your place.
But
you
that's-
you gotta
my-
humble
my-
me. I get it.
my
Long day of
question-
work. I'm sorry.
my question about that moment of where she is there with him is it at the end of time? Because that's what pretty much she's always wanted, right? Is that where she's set up? We don't know, so I guess we'll find out, type thing. Now,
Well, I would think so. Isn't that where the void was based off
Yeah.
season 1?
Now, what Chiapet is saying about her taming him and so forth, it's the perfect setup. For those
Yeah.
who know, you know exactly what's about to
Yeah,
take
because
place.
Well, now I know.
Yeah.
even her face, she got aggressive.
Yeah.
She didn't back down. It wasn't terror.
Yeah.
That thing was growling at her, and
Yeah.
then she's
Mhm.
like that. She kind of like made a face back at it, like so.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of our hint that
She's gonna do it.
now
Yeah.
is that where Kang ends up finding her? A Kang variant instead of a Victor Timely variant, who ends up using her as a as a person. You get what I mean?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
is
Mhm.
that what happens there? Is that
Could
what
be.
we're gonna see? I mean, it's very curious.
Yeah. But from there, where do we go? Well, Mobius is back home watching himself with his kids from across the street, kind of like how Loki was looking over him, also with him. And yes, his jet skis are still there. I don't know if you saw those;
Yeah.
they were there
Yeah.
in the driveway. But there with Mobius is also Sylvie. Now she says it's weird that Loki isn't here anymore, type thing. Um, she and Mobius then say their goodbyes. Mobius says he's gonna wait there a little bit, let time pass, and from
Yeah.
there it cuts to Loki sitting amongst all branches, slightly happy but
Melancholy
teary-eyed.
happy.
Yeah, he did what he
Happy to
had
see
to
his
do.
friends.
Yeah, he managed to save everybody, and he
Mhm.
has officially become the god of stories because end credits, baby. And let me tell you, I was full of chills once the episode ended. Yeah.
Me too. Exact same thing of just wow, what a wrap up to the season and just the series too, because this to me did feel like a series finale.
Yeah.
I saw on Twitter like 2 seconds, like right before I got out and I was in the waiting room. I saw that they confirmed that there's no season 3 coming. This is the series finale, and honestly, to me, it was a perfect wrap up.
I don't believe you. You're lying to me.
You don't. Nah, I gotta
I
pull this
know.
up.
I refuse to believe you. I mean,
Exactly. To be fair, I refuse to believe it as well, but there is no coming back from that.
That's backwards. That ain't working.
Yeah,
it's unlikely.
there's no coming back from that because now you've set him up on such a huge level that what's next, Gregory? Well, I see you in the chat asking. We're gonna be getting everything setting up to Secret Wars, the Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars. I think that's where the next events where we'll see Loki's presence felt. I don't think we'll see anything until then. We will see TVA stuff within Deadpool 3. I think that's where we'll see some stuff.
Yeah.
But I cannot see Loki's presence take place in any projects from now till Kang Dynasty.
I disagree.
I agree with that. No, I'm more. I think even the fact
if they do a Thor movie before Secret Wars, he's definitely 100% in that movie.
As it stands right now, he's
a world tree, guys.
Yeah,
and he's Thor's brother.
But he's like that to me would be more of a cameo role. I don't see him having a big role in it.
Definitely, we didn't say. We said C.
No, but that's what I'm just providing my thing.
So
where I think it wouldn't be a big role.
We're definitely going to see him in multiple ones before.
Well, if we do, I would say it would most likely be in a post-credit scene or something along those lines. But
we're gonna see him in Echo or what?
No, absolutely not. But to see him in a consistent role where he's going to be a dominant lead.
Yeah.
No, in fact, the fact that he is now the battery, like you said earlier, to basically all timelines, I think his role is going to be so significant and dominant. I think he's going to lead the way into battle with.
I think why I say that we think we might see him is I think he's going to be the one that recognizes something amiss.
Yeah.
With the Kangs either pruning timelines, he's going to be the first to kind of recognize the issues, right? And he might warn Mobius and the TVA of it, and they might activate their plan to do something.
Yeah.
Because right now, if you think about it, as we left it, the TVA, if we remember correctly, the director wrote, "War is still coming." He Who Remains said, "War is inevitable."
Yep.
It's coming.
Yeah.
The TVA right now is friggin' clueless about a war coming right now as it is.
They didn't see the movie announcements. We did.
They have no. They're just sitting there like, whatever. Things are going good. Whatever. Things check. So they're going to be rattled either in Deadpool, and they come to the senses, or in another one of Doctor Strange level, or a Thor movie, because it has to be something cosmic, or FF. Like the only ones I can think of on the top of my head that could relatively touch base on this are those movies. Maybe Agatha, but I wouldn't think that it would go there.
No,
I think they're going to focus more on the mystical / if anything, would be going towards Mephisto, not towards Loki.
Yeah, I think this would be more contained story.
I agree with what Robert said.
Same. I'm with Rob. Totally Avenger Prime. Now, looking at the projects that are up and coming, Deadpool 3, a lot of the scripts and rumors we're seeing online is how it's gonna touch on multiple timelines of different versions of characters we've seen both in the past and maybe even new ones. And that being said, I could imagine that timelines because of them might just fade away. In fact, we know that there's a scene with the entire Fox logo behind them, so I imagine we will see complete timelines fade away. And I think that in the post-credit scene would make sense if we would see Loki kind of sensing, oh, we're losing timelines, something's going on.
Fun fact, they're also putting Dogpool in the movie.
Yeah, Dogpool, I saw that.
See, they announced that today. I was like, cute.
Yeah. But now
I think we're going to see Loki register things are going amiss.
Yeah.
Right? Or he's going to start sensing a disturbance in the force.
Yeah.
And I think TVA will be the agents that he uses to gather his Avengers Prime Army kind of thing.
Yep.
And I think he's going to try to brace, because he said, we're going to be ready for you. You're going to come. We're going to bring it.
Yeah.
It'll probably consist of like Sylvie and Mobius and B-15 rounding up
And
some
Tobey
people,
Maguire.
no, but it'll be them rounded up, but they're going to round up specific people that Obi tells them to, kind of thing,
Yeah.
whether they're temporal or some kind of whack explanation
Yeah.
to justify why we're using those ones, right? And it'll be like a multiversal Avenger, like you said, versus a fleet of Kangs, maybe, with Kang the Beyonder, Kang eventually coming to school them all, and then probably kill a few people that we're going to be very tragic about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Now, the actual season 1 and season 2 of Loki, I think we need to give some huge love credit to Marvel for putting together what I consider to be one of the best projects in the MCU. I think, yeah, it goes without saying that it's probably the best thing ever. I put it up there. I was telling Chiapet before we went live, I said it's up there for me with Endgame and Infinity War. I think
100%.
yeah, exactly. And for those of you who
Believe
don't
that.
understand what Chiapet just said, he said 100%.
There's no doubt
Yeah.
this transcended average genre television.
Yeah.
This was up there with like shows like I always say, True Detective season 1. Those 8 episodes are incredible episodes. Watchmen, the one that Damon Lindelof did, was just
Andor.
Andor was season 1 was incredible. Like this week and both seasons. How do you follow up an almost perfect season 1 and you say, oh, we're just gonna top it in season 2? That's all.
We're just gonna do it again.
Yeah, and you're like, what? I mean,
unreal, man.
And maybe it's just the casting. You put this many great actors in a room with set designers who care. Just whoever thought of the original set concepts and everything, because people always I always argue with this. A lot of people going crazy. Me arguing with people, shocking.
Don't believe it.
It's shocking, right, guys?
Is that true?
Never happens. No,
doesn't sound likely.
Nah. So, people are like, oh, R-rated stuff because it's adult and everything, and they always want R-rated stuff. And I'm like, I don't know, man. This show was wacky and goofy and dealt with more serious topics about love, loss, belonging, finding family, finding your place, earning what you think you deserve.
Yeah.
When with legitimate issues about life, and it's not an R-rated film or show, and it's super mature.
Yep.
So I mean, and again, some things need to have R rating. Like I always say, Blade, you gotta have it as an R rating. It just feels like a Ghost Rider movie for me needs to be an R-rated movie.
The Punisher.
Yeah. So no, but I mean, but an R rating doesn't make it adult. Black Adam was an adult. Black Adam was running around killing NPC villains and swearing doesn't make you an adult movie. It makes what.
And then he goes, "Don't forget the Man in Black sent you."
This was adult, and I love the key. We didn't have key lime pie, guys.
We were supposed to have it tonight, but it snowed here. I don't even have.
Guys, I barely made it to the show.
We barely made the show. 2 of us ended up watching the Marvels. We can give you a brief discussion before we get off, if you'd like, or maybe we'll save it for a spoiler show that we'll do all 3 of us together. Maybe.
I have thoughts.
Yeah. We'll discuss. But no, I mean, I think that this thing it's a masterpiece. It's honestly.
Yeah.
Very good.
Boxed up, season 1 and 2 together in some funky, cool vintage TVA box set, and we should all buy it now that they're going back to physical media.
100%.
I'm gonna be honest. I already bought the steelbook for season 1. Like I have it.
I want to cool both seasons. Let's get both together.
Yeah.
Something I want to touch on though is for myself, both seasons were outstanding. Season 2 being that much more for me though, and there were just so many beautiful scenes, man. Like you touched on it, Chiapet, talking about the sets, talking about the stories and the impacts of, you could feel the weight behind every story being told, but even just the fine details. And I said it at the beginning of the show, I'm going to say it again, from, the reverse credits playing out in this episode. You can go back to literally any episode And there are so many scenes that stood out in this entire season. Like example, last episode when everything is spaghettifying in the record shop and the
Oh,
record's
I
spinning, and
forgot
it's
about
just
this.
I can go forever about all the scenes that really stood out to me, but hands down for myself, I can comfortably give this a 10 on 10. I remember people were calling me crazy. I was getting Instagram messages after I gave, I believe it was episode 4. I think it was episode 4. I
Yeah.
gave it
Yeah,
a 10 on
I think
10.
so.
And even Anthony, I saw you react. You were like, "Ooh, 10 on 10." Like that's pretty
Yeah.
intense. But I do not retract on what I said. I think for myself, this was perfection. The development behind Loki as his character within the MCU significantly developed, and what's happening within the MCU timeline. This series really moved the needle, and I think, especially with how we end off on this episode, Loki is really set up, man. Um,
Mhm.
It's the
as
most
as
important.
as big as he can be. Anybody saying that this is not Loki, this is Loki. In my
Yeah.
opinion, this is Loki. Sure, he's not bad. He's not always bad. He's got his good too, man.
Yeah.
But we got
Mhm.
this Loki right here, baby. So
Yeah.
Yes.
I am super happy about it. It was absolutely incredible. I cannot stress it enough. I'm gonna miss
Oh,
this season. I'm gonna miss
Yeah.
watching the series. I will definitely go back to rewatch it. But I
100%.
genuinely enjoyed Thursday nights because of Loki, man,
oh,
Yeah.
and also because of you guys. But we'll get
yeah.
we'll
Oh,
get to that.
thanks.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
We were okay, I guess, but
Yeah.
But
it's
guys,
yeah.
that's pretty much all I have to say. I don't know if anybody wants to add anything else before we sign off. I do have a
I
nice sign off I want to get to.
I just wanted to say, like, just quick. Season 1 and season 2 are like neck and neck for me. Like, you putting 2 above 1, I can't be mad. I don't know. I think I still might give the edge to season 1 because you gotta understand, I really, really, really like season 1.
Mhm.
So, but like, I can't be upset at you giving 2. It kind of reminds me of Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. Whichever one somebody tells me is their favorite, like,
Across is
upsetting.
better than Into.
I can't be mad at you for saying that
Yeah.
because
It's facts.
it's great.
It's-
the thing is, if Into is so good that it's like, if you say Into better than
Yeah.
Across, it's fine. Like, so for me, that's exactly what season 1 and 2, and it just together makes such a perfect story and just a great arc for the character.
Yeah.
And honest to God, even the way it ends, if we never see Loki again, I'm still kind of satisfied. As weird as it sounds,
No, I need
like,
more.
just-
I need more. I need
But I
more.
no,
want
but I do want more. But if we don't get it, there's something about the ending that was so satisfying to me
needs
that I was
to
just I'm
see
good
his
with it.
brother, you monster.
Yes, he needs to.
I get it, but
100%.
like, what
You
if like the
monster. Do you not love Paulo? What is wrong with you?
no, but like, you know what I mean? If the MCU gets canceled tomorrow, like they're just like, we're never making this again. I'd
Then
be like,
we're
well, at
then
least
we're
Loki
gonna
had
go
a
get the
solid
script.
ending.
We need the script from Michael Walden.
Yes,
What's the end game?
Chiapet,
What was it?
you mentioned it earlier, and I do believe we have seen it said several times on social media that the end game for this is going to be the reunion of Thor
Yeah.
and Loki, and it does need to happen, especially right now. The redemption arc for Loki is just on such a massive
He
scale
needs
right
to
now.
see his brother
Yeah.
as a hero.
Exactly. Last he saw him, I do expect kind of what Chiapet said in a previous episode, how it's kind of like, you prick, I knew you weren't dead type thing. Like you always find a way. So I do expect that exchange, but then the acknowledgement of what his brother's done, I think would be an absolutely beautiful scene. So I do hope we get to see that within the MCU.
They play
Now,
off
did we go ahead?
Sorry, they play off so well off each other though.
Yeah.
They're like as good. Like Hiddleston and Wilson are top notch.
Yeah.
But Hemsworth and Hiddleston are also in a different way incredible as well.
Especially in Ragnarok. Oh my god.
That scene where he tells his brother, "The sun will shine on us again, brother. Don't worry."
Yeah.
Come on, man. That needs to be their last battle cry before they go fight Kang and restart this whole damn thing together.
Exactly. Exactly.
We did. Anyway, I have. It's funny how we got some things right.
Right.
I want to say we were calling. At least I was calling at the end of Secret Wars that Loki would be at this position. It just happened a little bit earlier. Remember we discussed that in the first.
Hold on.
episode.
What do you mean at the end of Secret Wars?
I said at the end of Secret Wars to restart the universe or whatever they do.
Yes, would be
that Loki would be the he who remains then. but they kind of did it now instead, which makes more sense because they probably have. Yeah.
Yeah. So another thing we said was that Loki would be the one to lead the TVA, right?
Yeah.
And he pretty much indirectly did, right? He's
kind of
he,
sort of.
Kind of, sort of.
he
We get it on a technicality,
Yeah.
He reestablished it, and it seems like B-15 is at the head of this right now, right? She's basically,
which makes sense, by the way.
Yeah, she's basically Renslayer. Is the way I see it.
A good Renslayer,
like the head judge or whatever.
No, the judge is still there.
Yeah, she's still there.
Oh, yeah.
She's more of the clerical controlling of the thing.
Yeah, well, remember Renslayer was the head judge back then. So.
Things that we were wrong about Victor Timely becoming a villain from this one.
Yeah.
How dismissive He Who Remains was of Victor Timely, by the way.
Yeah.
Like he did not like that.
He doesn't like that SOB version of himself at all. He's like, who is this Malaka? And if nobody knows what Malaka is, my boy Gregory does, and my boy Rob for sure know what Malaka means. And that he thought that guy was the biggest Malaka in the world.
He thought he was a clown, man.
Oh, the biggest clown. The biggest clown.
You got the timelines wrong. What a bozo.
Yeah, like, dude, yeah. Oh, you got it wrong, and he did the stuttering thing. So that one we were way off base on, I think. But we got a few of them right, and I still think
no mid credits.
Battle World. What'd you say?
No mid credits, none.
Yeah, how did you guys feel? I thought that actually worked.
I don't think we needed one. I don't think we needed one.
Yeah. I'm not gonna be mad because my prediction was wrong. It's like, it works without one, so why would I?
But I think they're kind of setting up the TVA's role upcoming, anyways.
Yep.
So you are kind of right.
You show that they're still working. They're not like,
I presume. I think we said it before. They're basically going to be the shield mechanism.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now it's funny because you reference the shield mechanism, but you realize Loki now possibly being Avenger Prime moving forward has not just I feel like for the MCU moving forward, he's kind of this phase's Iron Man and the Nick Fury. Right?
Yeah.
Because he's got the TVA going on, plus he's got the Iron Man lead the charge to everything that's taking place on the grand scale of the MCU. So it's absolutely incredible. I loved every second of it. Like I said, I can talk theories forever, but we don't want to keep this episode going for 3 hours. So we're gonna sign off, and unfortunately, guys, I had the greatest time, but tonight is the last time that the three of us will be talking Loki. But brace yourselves, because the three of us will be back for other stuff as well. In fact, we got news that What If Season 2 is making its way during the holiday season, so you can rest assured that we will be back talking What If. We've got Echo dropping as well very soon, and that is going to be dropping all in one shot. So we're going to have a lot of watching to do in order to put together what we...
You have to give me a day for that one.
We'll just do a one show for that, if anything.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that's fair.
But, maybe not the night it drops. I we go work and stuff.
But
give me a couple of days.
But I just want to give a quick thank you to both of you guys for doing this with me for 6 episodes. We saw a lot of, the channel grew definitely, but I think us together kind of grew here, and we really put a lot of work into breaking down these episodes, and I had so much fun seeing your theories, Anthony, and my favorites out of every episode except this one particular episode, because in episodes 5 to from 1 to 5, Chiapet's lights just kept going on and on during the shows with theories, and that had to be some of my favorite stuff. But guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. We will be back. And I do want to thank everybody who has watched every single episode with us, wrote this out with us. We appreciated all the feedback, all the comments in the comment section. And of course, I was getting so many DMs, a lot of people enjoying this. So like I said, rest assured, we will be back for all time, always. That's all I'm going to say. There you go.
Thanks for having us, man. I love doing this. I have such a good time, I just love hearing Chiapet talk. I'm not even gonna lie. Just whenever he's spouting his theories, I'm just listening and what do I even have to add? This guy's doing it for me. I'm just here. I'm enjoying this,
Well, we usually do it on our spare time, anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
So what's the difference of being on a camera now?
Yeah.
This is regular time.
What's fun is that after every MCU movie, whenever I would go watch a movie with the boys, we would hang out in the parking lot for another 3 hours discussing everything. So this is basically what that is. It's just amongst
I
us
just
three.
came back from the Marvels, and I had
Yeah.
to leave that conversation early because I'm like, look, guys, I gotta watch Loki and record. Like, I
Yeah.
want to talk, but I gotta get out of here. So,
Yeah.
trust
Dan
me, I
Torre.
get you.
Dan Torre made it, dude. Thank you so much for swinging by. I hope you really enjoyed Loki season 2, and of course this final episode. If you have a chance, definitely catch the replay of what we just put together. But and of course, let us know what you thought. Comment in the comment section below. Let us know what you guys thought of this episode, of this entire season, and as well series, because that's pretty much it. So, guys, like I said, for all time, always, we will be back talking about what if this holiday season. Until then, you can catch me on Sunday nights live, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, doing my weekly comic wrap up. And of course, Anthony, you're doing your stuff. Let the people know. Go ahead.
It's on the OAR TV channel, the Reference Point podcast. You know, where we're slowly. It's been a while since we made a video. I'm not gonna lie, like we did a Lego unboxing, but we're slowly making a comeback. You know, we're not to give away what's happening, but we got some good stuff cooking. I'm not gonna lie, it's big things incoming. So
there you go. And of course, if you're not already, you should be following Chiapet on Instagram, man. So
or
definitely
you just drive by my house. I'm on the balcony screaming at people usually.
Yeah, most likely.
Yelling my theories to any strangers that walk by.
Whoever's listening.
You don't understand. To the end. The
It's Battle World. You don't get it. It's Battle World.
Oh man. All right, guys. It's been a pleasure. It's been a treat. I can't wait to hang out with you guys again this holiday season talking What If Season 2. Until then, like I said, we will see you guys then for all time, always.
Later.
Good night.